Having lived so long ago, the Egyptians left amazing records of their kings or pharaohs. Not only can we recount their great deeds and those that weren't so great, we can also figure out what their personalities were like. In fact, we even know if certain pharaohs were particularly ugly. However, we can also tell when a pharaoh was particularly accomplished. Perhaps no other pharaoh since Khufu, the builder of the Great Pyramid, were as accomplished as Hatshepsut or Ramses II. The reign of Hatshepsut is particularly noteworthy because in a time when women were valued in marriage, most of all for their ability to bake bread, she ruled one of the most powerful countries on earth. That's right, she. In fact, she is often referred to as the first really powerful woman in history. Hatshepsut ruled from 1478 to 1458 BC, meaning not only was she a woman in power during this period, but she managed to maintain that power for more than 20 years. When her husband, Thutmose II, died, his successor, Thutmose III, was still too young to rule. Rather than give up power to a different family or worse, have a civil war, Hatshepsut began to issue orders in the boy's name. Of course, everyone knew it was her behind the scenes, but it was enough to keep everyone happy in the beginning. As time went on, Hatshepsut became more bold, even starting to issue orders in her name instead of Thutmose's, as well as commissioning a huge amount of statues commemorating her reign. How many statues? Hundreds, if not thousands, have been found, and some museums have whole rooms dedicated to statues of Hatshepsut. This is in spite of the fact that Thutmose III ordered as many as possible smashed so people would forget her. However, if she was full of herself, she had earned it. During her reign, she was able to not only maintain control, but also extend the power of Egypt's merchants, making the country even richer. Some of that wealth went to pay for her impressive mortuary temple, meant for people to worship her after she died. In fact, the building was so impressive that later pharaohs would try to claim it as their own. This wasn't just jealousy. Being remembered was an important part of a pharaoh's afterlife. And no doubt people who liked Thutmose III were ready to start spreading that lie as soon as Hatshepsut died. One person who did not have to lie in order to claim Hatshepsut's greatness was Ramses II, who ruled from 1279 to 1213 BC, more than 200 years after Hatshepsut died. Ramses II would soon gain a reputation as not only one of the longest reigning pharaohs, but also the most successful. In fact, many refer to him as Ramses the Great. If nothing else, Ramses was an impressive military leader. Over the course of his reign, he managed to not only defend Egypt, but extend its borders in all directions, including into territory held by the Kingdom of Kush to the south, as well as the Hittites, a fierce empire that ruled much of modern-day Turkey, Syria, and Jordan. During this time, the Egyptian army may have numbered as many as 100,000 men, an enormous force for the ancient world, and comparable to the armies of many countries of a similar size today. That said, Ramses is most remembered as a general what was almost a great loss at one of the largest chariot battles in history. At the Battle of Kadesh, Ramses proved his bravery to his soldiers. His army was surprised by the chariots of the Hittites and was soon surrounded and outnumbered. But Ramses fought so fiercely that the Hittites were forced to retreat. Afterwards, the first peace treaty in history was signed. However, Ramses held on to enough land to justify moving the capital from Thebes, in the southern part of Egypt, to Pi-Ramesses, near the Mediterranean, making administration of his new territories easier. Yet just as Ramses spent a great deal of time conquering more land for Egypt, he also wanted to make sure no one forgot about him. Ramses was one of the most prolific builders in ancient Egypt. While he may have moved the capital away from southern Egypt, he still recognized the importance of building large structures there. And it is in the southern half of Egypt, also known as Upper Egypt, as it was here that he built his mortuary temple. Granted, it was quite some time before people got to actually use the mortuary temple, as Ramses lived into his 90s, longer than 12 of his sons. By the way, in case you think it sounds weird to refer to the southern part of Egypt as Upper Egypt, it referred to the fact that the Nile flowed from south to north, meaning that northern Egypt was Lower Egypt. Ramses is most remembered as a builder for another temple complex he built, far to the south in lands that had once been part of the Kingdom of Kush. Here he built Abu Simbel, a massive temple of stone meant to remind Egypt's southern neighbors that Ramses was a great conqueror. This lesson discussed two great Egyptian pharaohs, Hatshepsut and Ramses. We talked about how Hatshepsut was one of the greatest women in early history, as she not only ruled Egypt during a period of great prosperity, but managed to increase that prosperity as well as build monuments that later leaders were jealous of. Additionally, we talked about Ramses, who gained new lands for the Egyptians, signed the world's first peace treaty, and built very impressive monuments in the country.